Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome once again to another Torah review. My name is Chief Uzi Alewi. I'm one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH, CHOKMAH, BINAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. I'm thanking the Most High God for life, food, clothing, and shelter. Thanking the King for being who he is, the King of the universe, Yehudah, and unto him and him alone do we give glory. I'd like to thank the Most High God for the life of all of you, and I thank the Creator for the life of the leader of our congregation, even Chief Prince Yediel Ben Yissaskar, and I also thank the Most High God for the life of the person who is about ready to go over the Torah review, or the Haftorah for Bereshit with us today. That being none other than Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. We thank the Most High God for his life, for his years of service to the nation, and for all of the things that he's done. As we begin, as we start new with the reopening of the Torah from the beginning, from Bereshit, from the first chapter, we never get tired of restarting, because year by year we always get something new. So we thank the Most High God that we're able to go through the Torah every year. And some people, in some cases, some congregations, I believe is about every 3 years. But in the case of D.C.B, we go over the Torah every year. And we're grateful that we're able to do that, because the more that we go over the Torah, the more edified we get. And it's never such thing as you mastered the Torah. We're always going to continue to be students of the Torah, and you learn something new every year. So without any further ado, we're going to move straight ahead. And now I'm going to pass the mic over to one of my teachers, even Nasik, Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. Shalom, how are you doing, Nasik?
Well, Baruch Hashem. First of all, let's give praise to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Yitzchak, God of Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And due respect to the platform, spiritual leader on the platform on D.C.B, Chief Prince Yeriel, to the host, Chief Uziel, to all other princes, chief brothers, sisters, rabbis, Kohanim, Amorim, my reaching and telling my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem. Well, looking over before I go into the Bereshit, which is Genesis, I'd like to finish off a couple of points I didn't bring out last time concerning Hazienu being the last actual Sidra that's actually read on the Shabbat before after Yom Kippur. It's the last Sidra that's actually read, and the Sidra that's read on the Shabbat after that was actually Kohelet. But what was interesting about this, the 32nd chapter of Deuteronomy, Hazienu was in the Hebrew, as they refer to it, the first opening line, is that not only was a testimony against us, but what was unique is that it's a 32nd chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. And the way to write the number 32 in Hebrew is Lamed Bet, which means, and spells the word lave, which is a heart, the heart that pumps out blood. And usually that's the first organ that's formed in the fetus. The second is the brain. And what's unique about it is just that it happened to be the 32nd chapter. It happened to be about for us to take notice and pay a close attention to and take the teachings to heart, because the lyrics came from the Creator himself. But it goes even, it's a lot of phenomenal things in reference to that, because it's actually 52 verses in that particular chapter. And that's why I neglected to bring out too, as well. After 52 verses, you write the word 52, and number 52 rather, not the word, the number, Kaf, Lamed, Bet, so that means as a heart, like a heart. And it's one of them rare instances where you got actually the heart, being not only the number of the chapter, but the but also as a heart, the number of verses. And also it's the only song, as I mentioned before, that the lyrics is written by the creator, and that he told Moshe and Joshua to make sure the children of Israel learned that particular song. So that being said, I'd like to move on to also when we got into in the area of Shemini, I said that which had just passed us at that particular time, which is a day of its own, a unique day. Now, I know some communities don't like to think of it as a feast, but any point in time the Creator has is an opportunity to have food and rejoice in it, even the Shabbat. But being it comes so regular, we don't look at it as being a time where we actually will feast in it. Of course, the other ones, when you talk about Pesach or Passover, when you talk about Shavuot, which is Feast of Weeks or Tabernacles, Pentecost, and then when you speak about Sukkot, which is Feast of Tabernacles, we think about harvest festivals. So in the sense you're talking about harvest festivals, that's the word Chag, but the word Chag means a feast, in a general sense, a festival as well. So when you talk about Shemini Atzeret, which we just went through as a conclusion, and we think about Shemini Atzeret, but we don't think about in the book of Deuteronomy when it said Shevi'i Atzeret, when it comes to the seventh day of Chag HaMatzot. That's in the book of Deuteronomy. I believe it might be maybe the 9th verse, 16th chapter, 9th verse. And that's the only place it's written there. So during the time of Sukkot, you started with 17 major sacrifice, 13 rather, sacrifice the first day, and it goes 12, 11, 10, down, etc. It goes on down to it, and it stops, I believe, about 7, after the 7th, and then after that, when it comes down to Shemini Atzeret, you only have one sacrifice offering for that particular day. And it's almost like saying we at a total of during the time of the 7 days of Sukkot, that we actually sacrifice those 70 sacrifices when you count them up, from 13 all the way down to the last, the 7th day. That covers the main known nations that's spoken on in the book of in the book of Genesis. When we get to that portion about the 70 major nations, and mostly extrapolated from the 10th chapter of Genesis. But why the extra day? Why the concluding day? Is now it become more personal. We did our job for the rest of the world. Did our job according to the Creator brought us out to do concerning the rest of the world. Now it's a personal day when we get to Shemini Atzeret, because now you only got one particular offering for that particular day, besides the whatever day it falls on and the regular daily offerings. So that means that this is a personal thing between us and the Creator now after we done did our job. So it's like attending to the flock and then reporting to the boss. So that's what when we look at Shemini Atzeret at. So during that particular time, the whole month of Ethanim, a lot of, even if we, those people that might follow a rabbinic tradition of setting Shiva during the Sukkot time, after Sukkot, then they said Shiva, even if somebody happened to die during the time of Sukkot. What is also unique and what ties in is because of the Haftorah itself that we're going to bring out today. But on Shemini Atzeret, what they normally do on that particular day is that they read the final portions of Deuteronomy, and then they read part of the beginning of Genesis to show that it's a non-ending cycle. When and usually the last part of Deuteronomy says, call Yisrael, all Israel. And then, well, we know when we get into those that study a little bit about our scriptures, we understand that the world was made according to the sons of Yaakov for Israel's purpose, because we had a job. So we may be the last, nation form amongst the nations that's mentioned in the scriptures. But we were selected not because we was the greatest, not because we was the most, but we was the least, but because of what our ancestor Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did. So now let's deal with Genesis. A lot of people wonder in the book of Genesis about the origin. And one of the things that I say, because people believe in the earth being millions of years old and stuff like that, and that it's an evolutionary process. Well, we don't know how old the earth was. We don't have an idea. But I'm just going to read a couple of parts of Genesis 1 and just hit a couple of points in there before I go into the Haftorah. And one of the things I like to speak about, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was unformed and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light, it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. All right, the fifth verse, we need to pay close attention to. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. All right, now, you have numbers. You have what they call cardinal numbers, and you have ordinal numbers. A cardinal number gives you quantity. An ordinal number gives you position. So now, when a cardinal number is like 1, 2, 3, 4. Our ordinal number is first, second, third. So now the difference is if a guy say, all right, I came in third, or I came in second, that sounds good. But if he came in third or second, and it's only the total of 3 people running, or competing in that event, then he didn't come in first. And if he came in third, that means he came in last. So it's just showing position. That's what the ordinal numbers do. But when it comes here, the Creator use the word echad and not rishon. It says one day. So now the word light has several meanings. It has what the Creator called it, light, and it also means a day. And darkness has another meaning. So day has several meanings. Day is darkness is part of the day. Evening and morning is one day, a totality of a day. So day picks up several meanings there, because light has 2 meanings. Light means actually God called the light part, wherever that light was, he called it day, and then daylight. But that's not the whole day. He said the darkness is still part of that day. And that's why when it used to, and it's the only part in the Genesis story where you have a cardinal number, when it comes down to the cardinal number. All right. Even the Shabbat, it uses an ordinal number, which is Shevi'i, 7th, showing position, not quantity, but position. And it doesn't speak on how the Shabbat had an evening and the morning. It just talks about position, because we know from the formula as Genesis, when we read, that what comprises of a day. Now, the first 3 creations in Genesis, the first 3 days, we have no clue how it is. But one thing we know, we have some things that's really shown that it's a God's made thing. When you have plants, trees, all that is done on the 3rd day before you have a sun, a moon, the stars, or any other celestial bodies. So we always say, well, wheat grows better on the moonlight, and the other vegetation grow better on the sunlight. So this, that is a divine thing here. And we said this first 5 books, the Genesis story, is written by Moshe, who God taught 40 days. It don't take 40 days for God to embed 613 laws in a person's body and mind and teach them Torah. But he taught him also about the creation story where it be straight. So when Moses come back and share the creation story, though he wasn't there in the beginning of the creation, he was in the presence of the whole highest. So therefore, when the creator telling him how things went, that's clear. But one of the things also, it shows that it's never about interpreting the origin of the creator, what he is. It just said the spirit, the ruach, of the creator, Mark Panayim, all right, of the mind, the water, on the face of the waters. All right, so hovering. However, that's done. But it goes to show what the totality is. And you find a lot of things that's done here, like, mentioned 5 times, a lot of the double, a lot of things, mentioned, done 5 times. You got 5 different things going on in each day. You only have one day that has a definite article out of 6 days, out of 7 days rather, and that is in reference to the 6th day. I use the word Hashishi. And that's the day that man himself is made on. Now, as we go, and the reason I'm bringing these out is because these are key points, but I'm not going to focus on Genesis that much today, because they've been spoken on, and I did a talk on it before. But you always could find a lot of different things that's in this particular portion of Genesis. One, when you're talking about let us make man in our image, I like to just bring that out just a bit while I'm over here, which it starts around the 26th verse of the same first chapter. And it said, God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. I just want to bring about this one point in that particular portion. If the creator doesn't have a form, then what is an image? So we got to consider those things. Say, what are we talking about? Because the God we serve has no form. And in our law, we read, we only heard a voice, we see no matter of similitude. So now, if we saw no matter of similitude, then what is the image that we're talking about that God made us in, that he made man in? And that's just to consider what man is able to do out of some of the virtues. So that's what make it unique. You have, when we get into the second portion of actually forming man in the dust of the ground, it's a tradition that says that first dust is usually worthless. It didn't say Adamah, right? But when you form man in the dust of the ground, which is Apah, which is dust, you say, oh, okay, where did dust come from? So some traditional viewpoints on it is that all around this planet, because remember he had the waters, to be gathered in one place in the dry land to appear from every spot, of the world. Man is made from some product, that way he could survive in every spot of the world, be related to every spot in the world. And you find bodies of men buried all over this world, all over the world. Because dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. So some bodies got to be buried somewhere over there where dust came from. So that's just something to consider, as we think about the dust. And then how did Adam come up with a name? Why did God choose that name for Adam? Now we could right away see it means something in reference to the earth, Adamah. But Duma also means something like a reflection or similar. So what are the similarities? So I just want to bring that point out there. Before I go a little bit further, I just want to bring out a point about when they was in the garden. All right, so we know automatically that the Creator had a garden, and he put man in the garden. We know woman was made from the river man, a man named her, as a helpmeet, and he used the term kenegdo. Kenegdo means to stand against, so I'll give you a different viewpoint on things. Working together, but we working together, but what is your contribution? If I have the exact same thought as you about doing something, then you might agree, we might agree that this project need to be done. But your assistance is, what contribution can you make towards the project? So you got to have a different idea related to the same project. So when you talk about kenegdot, I mean, I need another viewpoint, and that's why you have so many different teachers teaching the same chapters and presenting different viewpoints, so that you could see other angles of how to enhance the Torah. We all pushing the Torah. We're all pushing to say, okay, this is what God told Moses, and this is what he wants us to know. But how many angles can you see in relationship to the same thing and still be on point and have the same mission? So now, man had only a couple commands, be fruitful and fill the earth. That's it. And so don't eat from the tree of knowledge. So now, if you're not supposed to eat from the tree of knowledge, what we have here is a simple command: be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, and you fill in the enhancements. All right, but one of the things I like to bring out, well, maybe, and when I get to the Isaiah, the Haftorah. All right, and then another thing I like to bring out is that some new things that's involved here. The first question that's ever asked by the Creator is, "Where art thou?" in relationship to Adam, after he ate from the tree that was forbidden him, the tree of knowledge. And you notice that Adam himself didn't respond to the question, directly and clearly. He used an excuse. When you ask a child why you did something, you're really not looking for any reply from the child. If they did something, it's almost like a veiled accusation. Why you did this? Why you do that? It's like a veiled accusation. So people are going to be defensive and look for an out in certain areas. The Creator didn't ask him why. He asked, "Where are you?" And that's a question that that we all got to ask ourselves. So the Creator didn't need no new information. This question is for Adam to answer concerning himself. What state are you in now? What do you think about yourself? You already found yourself to be embarrassed. You already found yourself to be shamed. But do you see that state as being conducive to you? But, as many teachers brought out, he blamed it on the woman and blamed the Creator. Never took portion on it. Now, one of the things I like to bring out in reference to that, because I'm like I said, I'm not going to be on the Genesis story too long, but I figure some points that different people would discuss when they go to their various congregations a little bit more, is that if the Creator had forbidden them from the tree, he asked them that, what happened? Man refused to answer. His answers is strange because he used the word "wa'okev." Now we have in Hebrew, for those that's maybe a little adept in Hebrew, we got what you call a conversive wa. or Bob, as some people would say, which means to take a past tense verb and make a future tense, and a future tense verb and make it a past tense verb. And you only find that style usually in scriptures. But he used the term "wa'ochel," and I ate. But I am eating. Okel is usually a present tense, but also without the what they say, colon male, which means the full colon with the wall coming down. When you just leave it without that colon, it's more like a future tense. So now, but it's not a conversive wall there. And, so it's like saying, and I will eat. So that was his reply to the Creator. Not only that the woman gave him, and, as we read in English, that he ate, but it's also saying, I will eat. So the English don't give justice to that word, wa'okel, which is used there. And also, the woman used the same thing. So in other words, it's like almost implying, I will eat it. If the situation appear again, I eat it again. So now you can understand why the Creator had banished him out the garden. Not so, because now man was meant to live forever. And he wasn't forbidden from the tree of life until he ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So now that word, wa'okel, or ba'okel, as some people would say when they pronounce that wa, it's like, this thing here, I'm not done messing around. If I had the same opportunity, I would go back to doing the same thing. If it's presented to me again, I'll actually still pursue it. So that would need further discussion amongst various congregations that go into that particular word, because that's the word that's not only Adam used, but also used by Eve, Kawa, the first woman, that same word. And it's the reason why they would have to be banished out lest they grab hold of the tree of life. Living forever wasn't a problem. Living forever, having that evil concept, that was a problem. And so therefore the Creator banished him out of there. And I'm just gonna bring one more trivial in there, as well as besides the Cain story, that you have some of the first in Genesis. That's why in BINAH came where I'm from, where it say, you never graduate, from Genesis. You always stay in the book of Genesis. There's always something that you can learn from the book of Genesis. You have the first people that bring an offering, Cain and Abel, Qaim and Habel, as I said. And I spoke about the meaning of the names last time I spoke. And you know that Cain's offering wasn't accepted, but Abel's offering was accepted. And it brought about the first murder. So you have a first offering, Cain bringing it. You actually have the first human birth. You also have the first human death in the book of Bereshit. Yeah, the first ones that deal with music, tents, and everything like that, and then deal with metals of different sorts. Yeah, the first time a man was polygamous, he had 2 wives. You read about that. You read about the first city. But what is fascinating, I'd like to bring out, read about our father Abraham, waiting to be 80-something years old before he had his first son. Basically, about 86, I think, when he had Ishmael, and he was 100 years old when Isaac was born. So now, if you look at, Abraham, you say, well, wow, he was an old man. He started off in his journey at 75 and had no children at 75. But what we learn from Genesis, Bereshit, is that the guy who happened to be the oldest before they had a child was Noah. He was 500 years old before he had his first child. And unlike other people, you don't read about no sons and daughters after that. So he had 3 children, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And when they was born, in his 500 years. So he went 400 and some odd years without any children. Ain't that something? That's unique. We don't know when he got married, but we know it's a long time compared to everybody else that you mentioned in the book in Genesis. So I think, there's a lot to be learned, and I'm bringing out those little things there so people will be a little bit more, enthused and not just peruse through Genesis, but take their time and study and delve into Genesis. Now I'm going to deal with the Haftorah on this particular portion. Now the Haftorah, it be coming from Isaiah, the 42nd chapter, the 5th verse, and by one custom, Sephardic, that ends in the 21st verse. By Ashkenazi customs, they end 43 and 10th verse. All right. The reason I bring that out is because as Israelites, we always say, well, we ain't following this custom, we follow that custom. Or somebody say, I like to follow Sephardic custom, but you're adopting really some flavor from somebody else or other. You're adopting it. If you say you didn't come up with it, then you're adopting something that you didn't come up with. And the Haftorah, maybe another time give a little bit more extensive talk on the Haftorah itself. But the Haftorah is actually when we was not able to read the regular Sidra, the weekly portions that we read. And then they used the Haftorah to have something regarding the weekly portion that they would read in the various places of study. So the earliest records we got really, and somewhat related to it, is around the Maccabees period. That's the earliest record we got in relationship to that. And then those that's next records we have, other than people talking about it, about the Haftorah period, some say it started from Ezra's time. Now, that's a tradition that I can't substantiate, but that's what they, some traditions said the Haftorah was actually started around Ezra's time. But you find even those that read what they consider a New Testament book, you find that the Haftorah is read, and it was a book of Isaiah that was read, I believe around the 60th chapter or something like that, or 61st, whatever, that the book of Isaiah was read in the New Testament there. But it became a tradition that that the word Haftorah itself meant inclusive, so it included in the regular weekly readings of the portion. Now we know that we had, and I can talk about Hezekiah too, because Hezekiah also had, make sure all the different places they had light. He did a lot of reformation in his time, but that'd be another story, King Hezekiah. But when we read the Haftorah itself, most of us, among most Israelite congregations, we tend to read the Haftorah first, and then we get into the Sidra. But the priority is always the Sidra first, and then you get into the Haftorah. Now, I can understand why we as Israelites might read the Haftorah first, and then get into the Sidra, because most times the Sidra got the laws that we got to live by. And the Haftorah usually tells us something that we messed up with. And we know that was first and primary. And we was told to study that. We're never told to study prophecy, but we're told to study the laws of Moshe, the Torah, the instructions that Moses had gotten. So we told that. And then we come into our own, this was what brought most of us in. So I just figured I'd just bring that out, because if you go to certain congregations, they might, even among some Israelite congregations, they might go through the Sidra and then call somebody up to read the Haftorah. But most congregations around, they would do the Haftorah first, and then they go into the Sidra. But the Sidra is what we live by. The The Haftorah is information concerning, and it reflects some ideas of the Sidra. Now, Isaiah was a prophet that lived through several kings in his time, and he prophesies a lot of this, a couple of destructions, but it's more than destructions. Isaiah is a prophecy with a lot of comfort. And the thing is that we just left a time of joy. The time, the time of Shemini and Sabbath, Sukkot, and everything like that. So now, we still always have to reflect on where we at now, and and where we going. So now we're gonna start at the 42nd chapter of Isaiah, the 5th verse. Have you got it? Or you want me to get it? All right.
We're in the 42nd chapter of the book of Isaiah, verse 5. Hallelujah. It reads, "Thus saith God, Yahuwah, he that created the heavens and stretched them forth, he that spread forth the earth and that which cometh out of it, he that giveth breath unto the people upon, and the spirit to them that walk therein. I, Yahuwah."
We did this good right there. Now, one of the things is that man's the only creature that God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Everybody else, they came out alive. Even though they got that breath, it wasn't hands-on. Now, if you think about the breath of life in that sense, when you talking, your breath don't do anything positive. But if you're gonna blow up a balloon, blow an instrument, then it's doing something positive. It's helping enhance something else. So mankind, the creator, enhance us by breathing the breath of life into our nostrils. But why would Isaiah say this? Don't people know about Genesis? He's saying this because we went so far away from understanding God that we started to think, like some people, is that the world just happened to happen. We don't know how this world comes about. It just happened to be here, like that. So now it's to remind us that this world didn't just happen. This thing was orchestrated with a supreme being, with somebody that had an idea and a concept. When we get down to the Shabbat, like I said, that's mentioned in Genesis, is that one of the terms they use when they don't talk about it even in the morning, but they use the word that when God ceased from us all his work, they use the word Shabbat. They don't use the word, while you're not fash, and he rested or was refreshed. They use the word Shabbat in Genesis. When they talk about the creator stop, they use that same term in Exodus around, I believe, the 31st chapter. When they talk about the Shabbat, they use the Shabbat for us as far as ceasing, and also talking about being refreshed. So Shabbat is not only a noun, but it's also something that you do. So now as you get back to here, it's that we done forgot about everything, and Isaiah had to remind us in a corrupt period. And Isaiah is lived to prophesize not only something that happened, well, with the 10 northern tribes, but also the future of Yehudah, Judah. All right, so from the 6th verse, it says,
Verse 6 reads, I, Yahuwah, have called thee in righteousness, and I have taken hold of thy hand, and kept thee, and set thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the nations, to open the blind's eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the dungeon, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house.
Okay, hold right there. Wait. Pretty good thing. All right. I like to bring out in reference to that the area there, is that we don't know this anymore. We don't think about this anymore. That's why the prophet that's why the creator told the prophet, let us know all this. And then it said, not only the prophets not only declaring how this world came about, but it's saying we have a job to complete the world that was started. In Genesis, it says it was good, and then it says very good. It never said it was perfect. So when we go through them 7 days and stuff like that, we never read where things was perfect. You read where it was good and very good, and even the second day of the week. You don't read good at all, just read it twice. So you read the word good 7 times within that portion. And you never read perfect, because we have a job to do. The Creator set things in motion, but we have a contributory part on ourselves. The Creator didn't need man to fill the earth and multiply it and rule. He could handle all that. But he gave us a job. He didn't need man from the very beginning when it says, he had not caused it to rain because there was not a man to till the soil. And you notice, he brought man from outside to inside the garden before he put him out. So you see where you come from. This don't look, I mean, it look all right, but it ain't gonna be like this area over here. This area over here, now this is paradise. So now out here, you might have some thorns and thistles. You got some rocky roads. You got some hills, stuff like that there. But right here is a paradise, an oasis. This is mine. So you know what's there? I'm bringing you over here into the interior. So we have a job to do. And even then, man had a job before he was even formed. He had a job. And in the garden, he had a job. All right. So, and he said, I think the 8th verse.
8th verse, verse 8, it reads, I am Yehovah, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images.
Oh, right there. So in other words, you know, in the Decalogue, we never read where it said, the Creator said there is no other gods. You read where it said, thou shalt have no gods before me. So now we know there's no other God other than the Creator that runs everything. But what the Creator is saying here in this area here is that not only we have a job, but we're blind and we're supposed to have sight. All right, we are deaf and we don't want to hear, Lord. And now the problem is, you can look at that part 2 ways. Is everybody blind in the nation? Is everybody deaf in the nation? Not everybody is blind in the nation. Not everybody is deaf in the nation, because the Creator using the prophet to talk to people in the nation. So Elijah thought, hey, I'm the last guy. Ain't nobody but me left. So we know that sometimes in order for wickedness to continue and grow large is when righteous people do nothing. When people close their eyes to it, shut their ears off, then the wickedness could grow stronger and stronger. And we got to talk about moral principles that's involved here. And this is rebuke coming to Israel from the prophet of Israel, because we ain't doing our job. So now we talking about a God of righteousness, morality. When you read in Genesis and in Bereshit, you read about the sons of God married and seen the daughters of men and took them wives, all who they chosen. Strong arming. Don't care if you're married. No, don't care if she wanted to come or not. Just took it. You know, and the Creator said, my spirit will not always be with man. Not that you won't live past 120, but actually that's you had it. Like Rabbi Chief Yamas spoke on. You got 120 years to get yourself together, or else you out of here. 120 years is a long time. And one of the things is that when the deluge came and destroyed everybody, everything on the earth, he would say, okay. He told Noah, man and beast has corrupted themselves. So now, God told him about a semblance of justice. And one of the things I always say, you know, I know about the other teachings people have out there, but I just like to say this here. the Creator, even in the prophecy, said, what fault had your fathers found in me? If we felt it was some unjust thing, even in the history of the deluge, because we know, as we get later on, I don't want to go too far into Noah's thing, that when the people built the Tower of Babel, it's because they dread what happened before, and they had an issue. So now, even Abraham, said when it came to plead for Sodom and Gomorrah, he said, "We're not to judge the whole earth, do justly." So that means that then that if you think that the sons of God in Genesis and some angelic beings, then Abraham shouldn't be saying what he said. Being he just entertained some angelic beings. So he shouldn't be saying what he said. He accused God, saying, I know you don't do stuff like that. And far be it for you to do stuff like that. Noah lived during Abraham's time. Shem lived during Abraham's time. So he had to know those guys, know those people. So when we look at those particular, because Noah lived to be 950. So when we talk about a moral issue involved here, we got to always say, where is the moral truth? You think the angelic beings and they got away, and mankind got to pay the price, and the beasts on earth pay the price. Then we have an issue of morality with the Creator, and the Creator even allowed us to bring him to judgment. But what can we accuse him of? No God and no ideology ever allow you to bring him to judgment. So that's within that, my talk, focusing on why Isaiah had to bring this back up. And he said, I will not give my glory to another, all right? Neither my praise to graven images. All right, go ahead. 9.
Verse 9, it reads, Behold, the former things are come to pass, and new things do I declare before they spring forth. I tell you of them. Sing
Right, that's something. Only Creator could do that. So, no, you've seen things that was told by the prophets that went down. Northern kingdoms had to leave. You've seen certain things happen. All right, but go ahead.
10, it reads,
Sing
unto Yehovah a new song, and his praise from the end of the earth. Ye that go down to the sea and all that is therein, the isles and the inhabitants thereof. Let the wilderness and the cities thereof lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar doth inhabit. Let the inhabitants of Selah exult. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. Let them give glory unto Yehovah and declare his praise in the islands. Keep going. Yehovah will go forth as a mighty man. He will stir up jealousy like a man of war. He will cry, yea, he will shout aloud. He will prove himself mighty against his enemies.
Hold right there. I just want to bring this out. Jealousy, the Creator is always justified with his jealousy. We may not always be justified without jealousy. Jealousy is when you give credit to somebody else that's rightfully that belongs to another. So when it comes down to Creator, we give him credit for other things, idols or whatever concept we have, other than the Creator who did a lot for us without acknowledging him. It's just like if somebody else called, say Abba, and you don't see him as an Abba, he's not an Abba to you, in that sense, then, it would provoke a certain type of jealousy because it's misplaced, gratitude. All right, go ahead. We could pick it up from there.
We're in verse 14. It reads, I have long time held my peace. I have been still and refrained myself. Now will I cry like a travailing woman, gasping and panting at once. I will make waste mountains and hills and dry up all their herbs. And I'll make the rivers islands and will dry up the pools. And I'll
now let me this. Keep going. It means disappointed. Go ahead.
And I'll bring the blind by a way that they knew not, and paths that they knew not will I lead them. I will make darkness light before them and rugged places plain. These things will I do, and I will not leave them undone.
Hold it right there. Now, that means those people who never really knew this stuff or refused to acknowledge this stuff said, look here, I'm gonna straighten you out. I'm gonna take you by the hand. But that was supposed to be Israel's job to take other people by the hand. But Israel needed to be taken by the hand first. That's the difference. As Israelites, we're not doing our job. As the chosen ones, we're not doing our job. And so while the Creator, before he jump on somebody else, he gonna jump on the ones who are responsible for not doing their job. And say, you need to see things clearly. You need to be able to be led a certain way, because in order for you to lead people, you got to know where you need to go. So let's pick it up from there.
Verse 17. They shall be turned back greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say unto molten images, ye are our gods. Hear ye deaf, and look ye blind, that ye may see. Who is blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I send? Who is blind as he? Who is blind as he that is wholehearted, and blind as Yahweh's servant? Seeing many things thou observest not, opening the ears he heareth not.
That means we got a lot of stuff going on with us, but I'm gonna skip on down. But there's a lot of it, and we're gonna skip down. That's the 21st verse. Finish that, but that's Sephardic too. The Lord was.
Verse 21, it reads, Yahweh was pleased for his righteousness' sake to make the teaching great and glorious.
All right, right there. That means right there, we had something going for us. When he said he brought us to us in righteousness, how did he bring us into us, brought us into him in righteousness? He gave us a way of life to be right. That's how he did. We were sanctified at the foot of Mount Sinai, and our law was supposed to come down to us from up on high, from the Creator. How to be right. So he didn't just get us out there and say, okay, y'all come up with some kind of constitution. No, he gave us something that would keep us right. And then we're gonna go just on the 11th verse, 10th verse rather of 43. I just want to, those could read it later on, but you're going to the 10th verse of 11, where the Ashkenazims end off. 10th verse, 43rd.
All right, so
10.
we're in Isaiah chapter 43, verse 10. Ye are my witnesses, saith Yahweh, and my servant whom I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me, and understand that I am he. Before me there was no God formed, neither shall any be after me.
All right, and that's something. All right, that's where we want to end that. You know what I mean? Because we always like to end on a good note. So both places ends on a good note. The last, whether you follow the Sephardic thing or you follow the Ashkenazi thing, they always have a habit to try to end the reading on a good note. And that let us know that the Creator allowed you to be his witnesses. Ain't that something? Moses wanted some witnesses that ain't going to change, that know us through and through. And the Creator said, look, I'm going to allow you to be my witnesses, and it said, my servant who I have chosen, that you may know and believe me and understand that I am he. So we got to accept that. That's why in the beginning of the Decalogue, a lot of people say, well, I am the Lord thy God. It's not the first commandment. That's why you find most Christian churches say, thou shalt have no other gods before me. It's the first commandment. But I is a pronoun, first person, nominative case, coming from a person of authority, self-nomination. So the Creator is saying, that you must acknowledge that I exist. I am he. And that's what we got to do. We got to acknowledge that the Creator exists. So I hope you got something out of what I said. I know I went kind of a couple places, but like I said, I not accept hold on in my mouth and mouth to declare the praise. I hope any mistakes been my own, and I hope you got something out of it. And any questions I didn't make clear, or any statement I made that wasn't clear, you can always leave a comment on it, and then I'll try to rectify it in the future if I can. If not, then just forgive me. I did the best I could at that moment. All right. Okay. All right.